Okay, good morning and welcome to our first Meet the Expert on Zoom. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Sue Llewellyn and I'm the Business Manager at Haywards Heath Business Association. I just want to just highlight a couple of things before we get the session started. So firstly, you'll have noticed when you've all joined the meeting, we've automatically put you all on mute. This is just to reduce the background noise whilst Gary presents this morning. So if you can just keep yourselves on mute while the presentations are taking place. Some of you have already submitted questions in advance. If you do have a question that you want to ask during the session, then please write this in the chat area and Gary and Kevin will address these questions at the end of the presentations. And I would just like to say a huge thank you to our Treasurer, Gary, for presenting this morning, and also for Kevin from Mid Sussex District Council, who will also be presenting. And on that note, I shall now hand the session over to you, Gary. So if you can unmute yourself.
Great, thank you very much, Sue, and good morning, everybody, in these very sort of strange times that we're all experiencing at the moment. As Sue has mentioned there, we've actually managed to get Kevin to join us from Mid Sussex District Council. He's actually going to be sort of presenting along the lines for the grants and reliefs that are available to businesses. Things are changing rapidly. Those of you that obviously know the finance world, it changes at a breakneck speed, quite honestly. So the idea of the sort of presentation today is really to sort of share the experiences that we're having with our clients, in hopes that it gives people a bit of direction, a bit of comfort, and some sort of obviously clarity as to the sort of business finance facilities that are available. I think before I start, rather than going straight into the detail, I just want to say it's really important to remember that we're all affected by this. Everybody is going to be affected one way or the other. There's a lot of stresses out there. There's a lot of emphasis on businesses to sort of obviously continue where they can. But they're also in a catch-22 because one moment they're being told, yes, you've got to operate. The next minute, no, you've actually got to close your doors, etc. So I think it's just a really important fact just to sort of drive home, if you don't mind me. I know it's rather obvious, but we are all in this together. And I think it's just really important that we're very mindful of that. You know, whenever we're sort of conducting business meetings, whenever we're having conversations with people. So, a little bit more about myself. I'm treasurer of the Haywards Heath Business Association, and my business is Simply Business Finance. We are an FCA registered, completely independent finance brokerage. Now, what that means is that we are the liaison between our clients, which are all SMEs. We're sector agnostic, so it's any industry. We're the liaison between our clients and our lenders. Now, our lenders range very much difference between the high street banks, which are obviously on our panel, right the way through to niche independent finance houses that a lot of people would never have heard of. So the funding packages that we come up with are very bespoke to the individual business and their requirements. So whilst I'm going to be giving information about the certain schemes that are on there, some of it may be relevant, some of it may not be to your individual business, because as I say, everyone is different. But being FCA registered means that we are completely independent. We're not bank owned, so we won't be driving any one client to any particular direction because of need or because we have to. We will always look at everything in an impartial manner to make sure that we can actually come up with the right funding package for you. Obviously, I'm not here to sell ourselves necessarily. I'm here to try and provide a bit of clarity and hopefully a bit of putting people's minds at ease for your clients and also indeed for yourself. First thing that I do want to sort of address is the coronavirus business interruption loan scheme that's actually been introduced by the government. Now, the details have been finalised to a point on Monday evening. Now, they are subject to change. However, the headline details are that there are businesses that will need to go through certain qualification in order to be eligible for the business loan scheme. Certain criteria, the salient point has got to be 25,000 up to 5 million. The basis of the loan is that there will be a loan provided by the lender, which can be your incumbent bank, or it can be an independent finance house as well, which are the people that we deal with. They still have to meet a certain criteria. One thing to point out on that is that it's not a grant, it is a business loan. So you as borrowers, us as borrowers, anyone as a borrower is still 100% liable for that facility. It's not a gift. It's not a case of, here you go, have some money, let's all get on, let's all crack on with our normal day-to-day lives. It's far from that. It's there to assist businesses that need it. So in terms of the sort of headline figures for qualification for the interruption loan, is that you have to be a viable business. That's one important thing. That's what the bank's going to be looking at. Their stance on this is that if you were a viable business in 2018, 2019, then theoretically you're going to be a viable business in 2020, 2021. That opens up the parameters for them to actually lend the money for you under the scheme. One caveat to that, there are many. One caveat to that is that if your business is successful and is viable, typically the lender, your incumbent bank, is duty bound to actually offer you a standard product if you qualify for that standard product. The actual scheme itself isn't actually providing a guarantee to you. The actual guarantee is to the lender. So the lender has got a bit more stimulus there. They've got a bit more comfort that when they actually start getting money out under the scheme, the government will come in and help the lender to recoup any losses that they have. So they're not actually providing you with a guarantee. They're not actually providing the borrower with a guarantee. It's actually helping the bank to give them a little bit more comfort in actually getting money out the door for those businesses that need it. So again, I think that's a very important sort of message and a fact that people really do need to sort of establish. So the idea of the scheme is that you apply for the loan, and assuming you sort of are eligible for the loan, you get the funding, and you actually get the first 12 months as an interest-free period. So you can have the option where you just pay back the capital, get to the end of the 12 months, and then you can just, if everything's all rosy, pay back the capital sum without incurring any additional interest. There are schemes also whereby the bank will allow zero payments if necessary. So you could be borrowing the sum from the money and not make any payments at all. They will actually give a payment holiday at the start of the agreement. But you have to still remember that you are still liable for 100% of that debt. One thing is that to qualify, you have to be, as I say, a viable business. That's foremost. But also, you have to be able to demonstrate that you can't, this is the bizarre part of it, you can't get traditional funding elsewhere. So if your business does have assets, if you are able to get an overdraft facility by providing a personal guarantee, that will be the first thing that's offered to you. So rather than taking the scheme, you'll be offered a traditional funding facility. And that might be through invoice discounting. It might be through asset finance. It might be as working capital. It might be as an overdraft facility. So it's not just a straightforward loan into your business. So, and part of our business, we're called Simply Business Finance because we want to try and break things down and actually make it simple and straightforward to understand. So hopefully I'm doing that for you. And obviously there will be time at the end of the session for specific questions, which can be directed at me as a group or certainly on a sort of individual basis. Happy to engage with you, happy to speak with you. everything we do is completely no obligation. We don't charge for our services. We actually get remunerated by the banks and the lenders that we actually deal with. We're in effect doing part of their job for them. That's of course if you do indeed take a facility that we put forward, but nonetheless we don't charge for our services. So the term of the loans that are available are typically going to be from 1 to 6 years. But as I say, I think the main thing is try not to get too bogged down with the idea of a government-backed loan available to your business or indeed to your clients' businesses, because I recognise some of the faces here, and I know that you're business consultants and certainly business doctors, enabling people to sort of move forward with their businesses. The main factor, and it goes back to what I was saying at the start, we're all in this together. If you can manage your cash flow without borrowing money, that's clearly going to be the best thing to do. Now, what banks have actually said, and this is where they've actually allocated their own money, and they've allocated billions for this, is that they're very happy for any of their customers that have got an existing finance facility to reach out and ask for a moratorium, i.e. a payment holiday. Typically, a lot of those payment holidays are going to be 3 months. That seems to be the duration that most of the experts, most of the sort of press are indicating this is going to go on for as a sort of general period. Yes, we're on lockdown for obviously the next sort of 2-3 weeks, but this will probably last for 12 weeks in all reality. So go and speak to your incumbent bank, go and speak to any lenders that you might have facilities with, even if you've got business credit cards, just go and talk to them. That would be the first bit of recommendation that I would put forward, rather than actually sitting there and doing the knee-jerk reaction, as I've got to say, a lot of our clients have done. They've been straight on the phone saying, this is great, I want to borrow some more money and I want to make use of the business interruption scheme. A lot of the clients, as I say, don't qualify for it. It was only launched properly on Tuesday, so there's still an awful lot of work to be done. A lot of the banks have their own infrastructure problems that they need to be contending with in terms of the platforms, in terms of actually entering the detail. So it's not going to be done quick, and they recognise that. So if you do have any credit facilities at all, first thing I'll say is if you need that breathing space, if you want to manage cash flow, which is what this is all about, and it's look into the future. Even if it's a case of you've got sufficient funds in the business now, where are you going to be next month and the month after if this does indeed continue for 3 months? Think about what you're spending, try and put together some forecasts, try and put together some projections, work out exactly what you need, rather than just doing the typical panic, which we've all done. We're all guilty of it. Put my hands up, we all panic because our businesses have come to a massive great stop. Everything's fallen off a cliff. We've just got to continue and make sure that we are resilient enough and can come out of this on the other side stronger, better, leaner. Another way of actually managing cash flow, and it's something that assists with, this is technically a loan of sorts. We've got lenders that actually provide funding for tax facilities. So they've built up a big business on it. So whereby businesses have to pay their VAT quarter, corporation tax, PAYE, that can be funded in a lot of cases. The government have done a great thing. They've actually turned around and they've said, yep, we're going to defer payment. That in effect is a loan, because that's not our money. As a business operator, that's not our money. When we're actually collecting those taxes in, VAT, corporation tax, PAYE, that's not our money, that's the government's money. The government have actually turned around and said, absolutely fine, it's automatic, you don't have to make submissions. You've got to obviously keep all your records, but they will defer that payment. That enables the cash flow. Again, they're looking at sort of a sort of 12-week period, so it's going to be the next quarter. It will extend beyond that, clearly, if it has to. but the government have actually put these things in place to actually assist with immediate short-term cash flow potential problems. Obviously, if there's longer-term requirements that come out as a result of that, that's where you then need to be speaking to the bank and actually trying to put something in place. But once all this boils over and we all come out the other side, it goes without saying that the actual scheme that's been set up, the business interruption scheme, will cease, of course. That's not to say there won't be something else that will come along and replace it, but this is only here as an interim measure. So there are ways that business owners can manage cash flow. There's obviously overheads that people need to look at. Goes without saying, staff is one of the biggest overheads. There is the coronavirus job retention scheme that's actually been set up. Now, this is open to all businesses. This is actually for any employee within the country that's actually through the normal sort of PAYE scheme. What the government will do, again, is actually cover up to 80% of their average salary. What they do is look at the last sort of 3 years, they'll cover the average salary. They up to a maximum of 2,500 a month. The way they do that is by reversing it through HMRC and their collections system. Now that system is going to be up and running in April. So if you make your own submissions, or if you've got an accountant that does your submissions, this is all assuming you have employees. It's obviously not going to be relevant to those of you that don't necessarily, but they're going to have reverse payments in it. Now the qualifying criteria is that that employee that's going to qualify for the payment under the job retention scheme doesn't engage in any work or activity for your business. So again, loosely speaking, the criteria is as a result of the business and the interruption and the fact that you've had to close your office doors, your shop doors, whatever business you're actually in, as a result, those employees are effectively redundant because there's no work for them. And the idea behind the scheme is that they're not made redundant, which again is a saving to your business in terms of obviously the redundancy pays, but also in terms of recruitment later on when you have to replace that stuff. The idea being is that those members of staff are looked after. It comes out of the government, comes out of the PAYE, and again, that's a saving for your business. You're not having to part with that cash, the government does. So again, there are measures put in place to actually enable businesses to tick along rather than run, actually tick along, but actually maintain a sort of steady cash flow and ensure that in 2-3 months' time, when this does blow over, that we can all come back with a vengeance and actually start trading again in a very efficient manner. So, as I say, there are other funding facilities available, and we're very happy to discuss those with you individually on a completely no obligation, absolutely no fee basis, in confidence, and here to answer any questions and help where we possibly can. There is, well, I have had other sort of questions which are sort of relating to SSP, statutory sick pay. Again, that's for employees. This is where the government will actually pay from the first day of sickness. So again, that is only relevant to staff that are sent home because they have symptoms of the coronavirus, not for any other symptoms. So there is an awful lot to actually get your head around. I'm sure most of you have accountants, business advisors, business doctors, and hopefully myself, as I say, I'm here, even if it's as a sounding board, I'm always here to sort of chat things through and point you in the right direction. There will be further changes to the scheme, I'm sure. As I say, that seems to be the hot topic, the business loan interruption scheme. People seem to want to apply for it. I'm kind of urging people not to, and in the first instance, Because the banking systems are overwhelmed at the moment. We know that we've got access to the decision makers directly. We know that the decisions that we're putting in are taking longer. We know that criteria has tightened up. So there's things that you can do within your business to actually assist with your cash flow. As I say, all of the tax deferments, all of the managing cash flow, all of the sending staff home can obviously assist with general overheads. There are obviously rate relief, and there are grants available as well, which I'll be handing over to Kevin shortly. He will obviously be talking you through that. And collectively at the end, as I say, there will be the opportunity for a Q&A session. I can see I've had some questions coming through here already, which is great. So what we'll do is we'll answer those individually, I think. We'll try and do it privately as opposed to as a wider thing, unless people are happy to do so. So those messages that have come through that sort of are from an individual to everybody, more than happy to answer those on a general basis. But if people want to send me a private message, I'll obviously engage with you on a separate time. So hopefully that has been some use. As I say, I'm here to answer questions. I know it was very generalist, but it's really trying to help people and point you in the right direction, that the government are doing things and they are trying to assist where they can. One question has just popped up here, actually. The self-employed, will we actually get some help from the government? Well, that's obviously the question on everybody's lips at the moment, and particularly for the smaller businesses. There is talk that, yes, there will be a scheme set up. I suspect a lot of it will be on the basis of deferment of taxation again. There will obviously be some help. The idea that's been mooted around, which I'm sure a lot of people have seen, which isn't actually in place, is that the government provides, similar to the job retention scheme, where they cover up to 80% of your average income. Now, that's going to be extremely difficult to administer, because a lot of businesses, certainly a lot of the businesses we deal with, it's not actually retaining a job if you're a business owner, if you're self-employed. That's actually keeping you as an individual with income, which is what this is all about. The thing that has been suggested is that those that are self-employed can apply for universal credit. That's something that people may or may not want to do. But again, it's all about managing cash flow. So by far, most people's biggest expense from a business owner's point of view, you're always got to look at your own personal sort of costs, are your mortgages, your rents, any other loans, car finance, etc. The same applies. Lenders are sympathetic. Banks have already said they will allow a payment holiday on your mortgage. There's a big push to have landlords, if you're in a rented situation, to allow a payment holiday, because if you're a good tenant, they'd rather keep you than not. They don't want to go to the expense of trying to put someone else in there. And the chance of actually finding someone else that's got the money to be able to spend on rent anyway is going to be very remote, because everyone, as I say, is in the same situation. So there is already help for individuals. As I say, that's going to be in terms of deferring your mortgage payments. It's also going to be in terms of picking up the phone and speaking to, if you operate a credit card, if you've got a bank loan, if you've got a bank overdraft, whatever financial commitment you've got. I do know, because obviously the 250 plus different lenders that we speak to have all announced, just go and speak to them. If you need contact numbers or some direction or an email address, again, please ask and I'll point in the right direction if I can. But just talk to people. If you find that you're under financial hardship, just speak to the people that you actually owe the money to. I think that's probably the only advice I can give on that. In terms of, will there be the sort of government funding? hopefully there'll be something announced later on this week. We'll make sure that the Hayward Heath Business Association website actually includes that information for everybody to view. So that's me. That's my dulcet tones for the moment. If I could just hand back to Sue, she'll pick up the reins again, and she will then introduce Kevin, who will then speak about the grants and rate relief that's been applied to businesses. So back over to you, Sue.
Hi everyone. So I'd just like to introduce Kevin Stewart now, who's from Mid Sussex District Council. So I'll hand the rest of the session over to you, Kevin, to present now.
Hello Sue, can you hear me?
Yeah, perfectly.
Thank you so much, great, thank you. Just to pick up on the points that Gary said there, I've been in this business now for 38 years, and I think it's some of the biggest changes that, I've never seen a situation like this. So, and I just want to reiterate Gary's points in respect of this. It's constantly changing. I think there will be further changes coming through yet in terms of business rates and in other things. And I too have heard that there will be help from the government channels that I've heard for the self-employed coming through. Exactly what, we don't know yet. And trust me, I'm an advisor to the MHCLG, the DWP and the BIS and a number of government agencies. And I think they're finding it all up in the air too as well. As promised, I want to really go through and happy to take questions. And Sue and Gary have got my email address. So if anyone wants to talk to me privately, more than happy for that to be done afterwards as well. And this is a moving ground because it is changing constantly. For example, on the business grants, we only actually got the full guidance on 11 o'clock on Monday evening in respect of that. There are two particular business grants. One is for £10,000. It was originally £3,000 in the budget on the 11th of March, but actually then got up to £10,000 on the 17th of March. And this is for any property in respect of small business rates relief and also rural rate relief up to an RV of £15,000. Now, there are certain exemptions to that, and I do notice the HHBA newsletter has gone out just recently, and it's actually got the guidance and the rules on there. For example, if stables are used for personal usage, it wouldn't qualify. But if you've got any doubts about it, just let us know. Now, we are identifying those properties automatically, so there's no need to apply. However, what we will need to do is to actually write to local businesses, because with small business rates relief, a lot of those particular properties up to 12,000 haven't actually paid business rates for a number of years. So we want to try and pay by backs as quickly as possible in April, but we'll have to write the next week or so to actually get that information off you. So what I will do is, through the HBA, I will let you know exactly what we're doing and when we're doing it. And I hope you have found the updates so far very useful, although they are constantly changing. The second grant scheme is for the retail, hospitality and leisure. And that covers from 15,000. And by the way, these grants are one per resident. So they're one per property. If you've got 2 or 3 businesses in actual but different properties, you'll qualify for a grant for each one of those particular properties. The state aid rules have actually been extended for the grants. There's £800,000 euros state aid that you can get the grants for. So they've really upped the state aid allowances. As I said, the second one is on for retail, leisure and hospitality grants, and that covers a rateable value from 15,000 to 51,000. If you qualify for the expanded rates relief for those particular properties, for your particular properties, you will qualify for this grant. Once again, you will not need an application form. We will do that automatically. And in these cases, because before 2021, you're probably paying some rates. If, say, you were paying by direct debit or we'd given you a refund, we'll probably have your bank account. So what we're looking to do, we might write to you and just double check that those are up to date, because what we'd hate to do is to pay into the wrong bank accounts. Now, I do stress we will be writing out. We'll try and email as well, but we will be writing out. I'm just conscious that a number of businesses aren't trading at the moment. So whatever you can do to try and make sure you've got the correspondence or our records are up to date is great in terms of that. Now, as I said, we're hoping to pay those grants of 10 and 25,000. We have updated our websites to include that. Just one plea I would make to you: if you could either go onto our online website or email us at revenue@midsussex.gov.uk, because at the moment we don't know any more than what I've already told you. So if you're unsure whether your business is one of the quality, happy to take emails off you, double check that. If you do, perhaps it's an opportunity for us just to update our records and get the information in from you that we need, e.g. the bank account. Some organisations may be doing it slightly differently. We're actually going to pay those grants by backs. The reason be that for social distancing, we're trying to encourage people to stay at home as much as possible. So we're going to pay it directly into bank accounts wherever we can in terms of that. Hoping that the payments will go out. Might struggle to get them out the 1st, 2nd and 3rd, but we're hoping to get those payments out the 6th of April and that week. And we're trying to do that as quickly as possible. I will keep you updated on that. Obviously happy to take questions on that. I just want to go on to a couple of other things. You'll notice on the 11th of March and the 17th of March, expanded retail relief was granted. Now, retail relief was available for retail properties for 1920. For up to 50%, you could get retail relief. And then there's other reliefs and discounts as well. Well, the Chancellor extended that to 100%, but also extended it to leisure and hospitality. Now, unlike the grants, where there's a 51,000 RV limit, there is no RV limit. Now, I would stress, and we have updated the guidance on our website, and there is a link to that, and I have sent through the HHBA Association the guidance that we've got. It depends what is qualifying as a retail, leisure, or hospitality. And there is some grey areas with this. So if anyone's got any dispute on that or any issues or not sure, please once again email us in and we'll have a look at that and let you know. We are feeding back to the government. I'm feeding back to the government where I think there's some grey areas in respect of this, and I'll come on to those properties that have been forced to close, those businesses that have been forced to close in the period at the moment as well. So, but this is for retail, leisure, hospitality. There are certain types of business on the guidelines. There are some other grey areas that may qualify on top of that. So please have a look at the guidelines. Once again, happy to take emails if you want to come back to us. And Sue's got my personal email. I'm happy for that to be shared with any business of this association if they need that. On top of that, there was a nursery discount announced. It was given an education response in Parliament, and this is for any nursery. And please note, the council cannot award discounts or relief to itself or any precepting authority, so they're exempt from that. But anyone doing a nursery, which is on the Ofsted's early years register, can actually get 100% off their business rates too. On top of that, we do fully realise that this is probably one of the most difficult, probably the most difficult times in collecting, doing business and getting money in at the moment. So we are trying to deal, if anyone's got any issues that don't qualify for these reliefs or got any other issues at all, and please note, apart from the retail and leisure and hospitality, most of the reliefs are geared to up to an RV of 51,000. If you pay above that, come and talk to us, please, about, because we're happy to give payment holidays in respect of the current time, because it's very difficult at the moment. We will try and be as flexible, my team and I will try and be as flexible as we can be in the current situation, because we fully do realise that. I'm more than happy to go back to government and say, well, I think that should have help and that should have help. They may not agree with me, they might disagree with me. The other thing that I would flag up is that you can challenge your rateable value. Now, whether or not there's grounds for doing it, but I would say the current impact of the coronavirus situation probably is a good reason to actually consider yourself for an appeal. Now, there is a website to do that. We're putting it on our website, and I'll send information through to the HHBA for that as well. But you can do that, but you've got to have grounds for doing that. So you can look to see if you can get a rateable value reduced. Now, Obviously, the other thing at the moment is you might get correspondence in coming months in respect, because the MHCLG are still, despite the current situation, forging ahead with a revaluation from next April. So, and we know what issues that I can do, but I don't really want to focus on that today, because this is about coronavirus and what we're trying to do to help coronavirus. Now, we've tried to keep you up to date with it. I think, because I've seen emails going from the MHCLG to local government this morning, there are further things being proposed by the MHCLG, particularly on the businesses that have closed. So it's a fast-moving situation. It's going to change. I'm certain of that. We will try and keep you updated as possible, but please do come back to us if you need to. At that point, Sue, I think I've covered all the areas that I need to. Happy to hand over to you and happy to take questions.
Okay, if I can just ask Gary, can you start working through all the questions and either answer them yourself or pass them to Kevin, please?
Yeah, hi, okay. So a lot of the questions are sort of geared around, as far as I can see here, about self-employed and what help is going to be for the self-employed. But I think we've already covered that in that, yeah, there is no hard and fast sort of package yet that's actually been announced. It's really all geared about protecting the business and its assets. I know that business owners are pretty much the business in a lot of cases, but it's more about taking advantage. And someone did actually mention on here that that they have actually applied for the mortgage holiday, and they found it a very, very straightforward, simple process. But I think that's key. You know, that to reiterate, banks, lenders, financial institutions recognise the fact that they've all got to come up with the goods. They've all got to help where they can and show flexibility, and that's across the board. That's from the incumbent banks, the challenger banks, right the way through to the independent finance houses that we deal with. I've been communicated by them all, and whilst some of them have actually stopped new lending, the ones that are out there have turned around and said, look, if any of your clients are struggling with any finance facility, we just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing. Because let's face it, no one's immune from it. The banks aren't immune from it. We're not immune from it. There's not one business that's immune from this. So everybody wants to help everybody where they can. It is back to the cash flow thing. Now, hopefully there will be some assistance for self-employed, because whilst my business is a limited company and technically I'm an employee of my business, I am, for all intents and purposes, treated as self-employed. So, as I say, we're not immune from it. You know, we're sort of finding things tough at the moment. You know, we're busy sort of helping our clients and sorting people out. But everybody is affected by this. So universal credit is one thing that people can apply for. There will be definitely some package put in place, but it's not going to be, it's not going to be, no one knows what it's going to be, but it's not going to be the thing that suddenly turns around and says, brilliant, fantastic, I can continue my life as I was, as if I was earning and taking my full salary, taking my full dividends, etc. It's going to be wildly different from that. So it is a moving feast, definitely, as Kevin said, particularly in the finance world. And you know, whilst we have got the headline details about the loan interruption scheme, things are subject to change again. So, as I say, we will try our best to keep you updated through the Hayward Heath Business Association, through the blogs, through the website, through the mailers that Sue kindly sends out for us, but also directly. You know, as I say, if people want to speak to me, absolutely fine. People can speak to their accountants, their business advisors, yeah, and collectively we'll sort of help where we can. So we've got, thank you, Naz. You've actually put on there a link for Nationwide. Again, you know, that's pretty much key to all lenders. They have got specific platforms, specific emails, specific ways of actually enabling you to ask for payment holidays, payment breaks. They're expecting this. Banks have put aside billions of pounds of their own money. Forget about the injection from the government or the guarantees from the government. Banks have put aside billions to support people and also businesses. So they recognise the fact that people are going to be asking for a bit of a time, a bit of a break to actually get through this. So don't be afraid to ask. If people need to have that time in between, just to buy them a bit of extra time and have a bit of cash at the end of it, just ask. It's very forthcoming. What other questions we got on here? Okay, so Jeremy, as a home-based limited company, I don't pay rates. 2 directors paid minimum wage and take directors' dividends as and when we can. At the moment, I feel we're falling through the gaps. If I've used 2 staff directors, then we can't work on marketing. Yeah, again, that's atypical for a small limited company. We're pretty much the same. There's myself and my business partner. We operate as a limited company, and yeah, you're absolutely right. In terms of payments, etc. One could argue and say, yeah, we're taking dividends. Individual sort of payment facilities and ways businesses pay each other is obviously down to them. They've taken advice from their accountants. As I say, the main thing is you've just got to try and preserve what cash flow you've got, try and reduce your overhead as much as possible. And you're absolutely right. You can't put yourself aside and say, yeah, it ordinarily will make ourselves redundant, because you do have to continue working within your business, as do we. So technically, you're not entitled to the job retention scheme. We're not as business owners. So we are treated very, very differently. And as Kevin said, and I alluded to earlier as well, the government is working on some sort of assistance, but what form, what shape it's going to take is anybody's guess at this time. The only thing I can say, and I know I carry on reiterating it, is if you do have financial commitments, don't bury your head in the sand. Go and speak to the lender, go and speak to the banks, and ask them for a payment holiday. You'd be surprised at how easily it is to get in the current climate. What else we got here? Universal credit, as it means tested. Yes, it would be. But again, that's down to the Department for Work and Pensions. So they would obviously advise on that.
Gary, have you answered Barney's question yet?
Okay, let's have a look. Almost everything talked about today isn't available to me as I'm a self-employed person.
No, my question was about council tax. So a lot of councils across the country are going to give the 2 months, and because you normally pay 10 months out of 12 and you get 2 months off. That 2 months is normally, in my experience with MSTC, February and March. So therefore it's just happened. Obviously it would make sense now to make the 2 months off to be April and May. So obviously it wouldn't be, apart from an administrative sort of hassle for them, there wouldn't be any difference in terms of the payments they get. So are they thinking about doing this? Obviously it's more a question for the council guy rather than you, but that would be an interesting thing to know, because obviously they're talking about payment holidays, but they can offer us one themselves.
I'm happy to take that one.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Obviously every authority is very different in the way they're approaching it. At the moment, we're not doing that. However, if you do contact me personally, I will ensure that we actually put your instalments out. Any self-employed person, if they contact as well, because I think there will be further help for the self-employed, come and talk to us in respect of that. Also, if you're struggling, and we will put your instalments back, the 2 months, so you can pay over 10. And by the way, everyone has a right to pay over 12 months instalments these days, not 10. They just need to let us know. But could I also suggest that if you've got a business and you're self-employed, you put a claim in for council tax support, because as everyone has said, your businesses are struggling so much at the moment with everything else. And it could be that you could get help for that, which you normally wouldn't get help on, and try and get your claim in as soon as possible in respect of there. I'm happy. My email address is kevin.stewart, that's kevin.stewart, STEWART @midsussex.gov.uk. I'm happy to give any self-employed person a 2-month payment holiday, and you heard it here. More than happy to do that. And also I'll give you the links to apply for council tax support to get help for your council tax. Can I also say, whilst we are businesses, the government has also announced a £500 million exceptional hardship fund that gives us additional money to people that qualify and for people that have got hardship for their council tax this year. That's a personal fund that we can help with. But once again, we're looking at other initiatives. I wouldn't rule out giving some help to the self-employed for council tax through that as well. So please do email me. It's a moving ground though, because we're changing it left, right and centre. So what I say to you at the moment might have changed by the end of today, but certainly we will give you a payment holiday.
Can you just explain what council tax support is?
Sorry?
I'd never heard of council
tax support.
What does that mean?
Council tax support is basically help based on income and circumstances.
Right.
So basically we take the income you've got, which I should imagine is severely hit by the coronavirus at the moment, against a needs allowance that you've got. I'm happy to give you further details and give you links to the forms, but all you'd need to do is, if you've got a set of accounts or you've got some figures, just let us have those with an application and we'll consider it and see what council tax support we can give you.
Right.
We are expecting a lot of applications we're already getting them from self-employed people who are facing probably the biggest challenge of anyone at the moment, in our view. Well, everyone's facing the challenge, but you are. So, and if you email me, I'm happy to give you further information of that. And I will pick that up with the HHBA as well and deal with that. Now, I think someone did mention universal credit earlier on. Now, universal credit is means tested. I will add that. There are new rules coming out for self-employed. Now, they did take the minimum income floor into account, but they've relaxed that. So if you can show that you're affected by coronavirus, they won't take the minimum income floor, which is a minimum level of income that they take into account. They won't take that into account. So you might find if your business is really struggling to look at universal credit and see that, but it is means tested. But obviously, if you're really, really affected by the current situation, you would stand a chance of qualifying. Having said that, their lines are extremely busy at the moment. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. I think, yeah, it's a common theme. Yeah, get in and apply as soon as you can. If anybody needs assistance, just speak to where you need the assistance from or where you feel that you need the assistance. It is a case of getting in early. But as I say, again, we're all in this. You know, it's affected absolutely everybody. So systems are clunky because it just can't cope with the influx in terms of our lenders, in terms of our banks, in terms of everybody's systems. We're all trying to fight at the moment. So again, you know, just please be mindful of that. I know it's stating the obvious. If banks are a bit slow at getting back, or, you know, indeed if we're slow at getting back, it's purely because of a volume thing at the moment. You know, just try and be mindful of that. But everyone will be dealt with. Everyone will be spoken to. It just might take a bit of time.
Can I just ask Kevin quickly, are you happy for us to publicise that about the council tax break to our members?
Yeah,
obviously
I'll
it's
send
whether
you a
they
line.
live.
I'll send you a line soon. Yes, yeah.
That's clear.
I'll send you a
Never
line
mind.
on it, and we'll put some wording in for you.
That's great. Obviously, it would only affect those that are living in the Haywards Heath area, because obviously some of our members might actually
yes,
live
every
outside the area and work in.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yes. So I just stress what I've said to you only applies to Mid Sussex. Whilst we are talking to other authorities, they're as I think Barney said, I think they might be slightly different in the way they're taking on things. But it is, as Gary has said, a very moving feast. There's things coming left, right, and centre. You switch off the PC one night and things have changed by the next morning. So we will try and keep you updated. I promise you that. And hopefully I've proved that in the last week.
You really have,
Yes, you
Kevin.
have.
Yes, we've had plenty of info coming through. So thank you for that, Kevin.
Yeah, and Sue's been streaming it out. I can't tell you the importance of the website at the moment, and Sue's been on it every single day updating it. So the information is there. It's through the website. I can't reiterate that more.
Kevin, just got a request. Would you mind putting your email address on the chat? Is that okay?
Yeah, no problem at all.
Brilliant.
By the way, my office number you won't get at the moment. I'm one of those that's been caught out. I'm self-isolating at the moment. So yes, I came into link with someone that's got the symptoms. So yes. So, but I'll put the email address on, so everyone's got that. You'll find that I will respond day and night.
Right.
Thanks, Kevin. Can I just ask now if anyone else has got any questions for Gary and Kevin as we're drawing towards the end of the session, if they want to ask those questions now, please.
Or indeed after. Absolutely. Like I say, I've put my contact details on the chat there. So if anybody wants to talk to me separately, feel free to pick up the phone, drop me a line, and we will respond as we can.
Hey. Hi, it's Rocky. I've just been unmuted.
Hello. Hiya.
Hi. It was just a quick question to say. I know that we recorded. If does the chat get saved as well? Because obviously there's quite a lot of links and details in that. So I can't hear you, Ollie. You're on mute.
I'll be sure to go through the chat and make sure that everybody has access to those links. So again, many thanks. I think it was James, Nas and Jeremy who shared some really good information there. So I'll make sure that we can get all of that out there to everybody.
Brilliant. Thank you. And thanks to everyone. It's been really helpful.
No.
Great. Thank you. Well, I hope it has been helpful. As I say, we're here to help where we can as a business association, but also as our own individual businesses as well. Let's just get through this.
Can I just add to that, if I may? If anyone's got any questions, please get in contact. I'd rather you came to us and we sort of tried to give you an answer one way or the other. You got an answer, but we will do all we can to help. And rest assured, I will challenge the government on an ongoing basis because I've got some avenues into it to try and help wherever I can.
Right. Thank you very much. Okay, so over to you, Sue.
Okay, thanks everybody for joining the session this morning. I hope we've managed to answer some of your questions. As Gary and Kevin have both said, if you do have anything else, then please get in contact with them. We are updating our website on a daily basis, so please do check our news blog on the website, and also you will see that the newsletter will be emailed out twice a week from now. So thanks for all joining us, and hopefully we'll see you at another Zoom meeting soon. Many thanks.
Thank
Bye
you.
all.
Bye.
Bye.